Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sonic Movie Show, the only home of video game movies. We're not talking about video game movies today. Devin is over here, and he's going to tell us what we're going to do. I'm tired. He's tired. Not as tired as me, but I'm tired. Devin, you're over there.
I'm happy. I'll always be happy. There's no real dialogue in this game, folks, besides Chow says like 2 or 3 things. So,
Right. Well,
that's the best quote, I feel like, because if another one, I was like, this would feel weird for me to say.
sure, I played with the kid next door.
That was the quote.
Yeah, maybe there's a line of dialogue that pops up right before the credits, but we didn't have time to dig around, as they say, with Egg Rocket Zone. That BS nonsense loops you back around at the beginning if you fall. Great.
One time.
Yeah.
Then...
Anyway, what are we talking about today, Devin?
So, if you've been following this channel for a little while, or even just at least a year-ish, maybe. But if you've been here since day one, you're a real one. But yeah, every 50 episodes of the Sonic Movie Show proper, we do a deep dive, or we do a discussion. Maybe sometimes we talk about history. We've done a couple different iterations of it, and that's what I kind of like about it, is that it's changed every time. But sometimes, we get very busy, and this is the best you're gonna get. Sorry, but I still think it'll be cool. But we're talking about Sonic Advanced. Is that a?
There's no D at the end. It's Sonic Advance.
Advance.
Just like it's the Game Boy Advance, so you don't say Advanced. But although I did as a kid,
I always said Advanced.
Or apparently the Japanese pronunciation would be Sonic Abunantsu Adobansu, according to Sonic Wiki Zone.
Sounds correct to me.
Yeah, I always forget that they have like half syllables where like they just have to end with a vowel sound. It isn't like, oh, they don't know to end early. It's just like, you learn a language so much, like your mouth just naturally makes shapes when your brain is like, make them, you know what I mean, without you really thinking.
And then there's some sounds you just, for me, I've been doing Duolingo for almost a year of Japanese, and like there's some where I'm just like, I just can't have these certain sounds flow together. And it just doesn't work for me. But I'm sure that's the same.
Yeah.
That's the same with every language. People are like, oh, I can't say that, or I can't say that. Sometimes you speak English, like I do, and you don't know how to say words anyways. So
Exactly.
Sonic Advance.
Yes. Hey, you know what? You said sometimes you get really busy, and you gotta be gaming, right? But it's hard to fit in time sitting with your Sega Dreamcast or eventually Nintendo GameCube, right, to play Sonic Adventure 2, right? So, you need some time, and what fits into your busy schedule more than a portable game on the Game Boy Advance? There we go. That's why
we all still have our Game Boy Advance, too, on the subway, on the...
Yeah, actually mine is around...
All the other different types of public transportation that we totally have in both our cities that we live in, that are just always on time and proper. Always have my Game Boy Advance.
I live actually within walking distance to Lake Ontario.
Plenty of trains, though. You just all the buses.
Absolutely,
all the biking, and nothing's better than having your Game Boy Advance on the Denver subway system that totally exists. That goes, to many places very quickly.
Absolutely. You see,
but I still have time to play my Sonic Advance. So,
yes, I mean, and there's a lot of content here to go through. I was gonna say, did you see that map of Mario Kart World subway system? And it's like, this is like more advanced than the United States of America.
Yes, it's like Kart. It always is. It always is, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yes, we picked Sonic Advance because, this is, while we've done, for every 50 episodes, we do one of these deep dives. If this is your first episode, I'm sorry. You have some catching up to do. You don't have to watch from the beginning. But maybe watch the 50s, 50, 100, 150, 200, and now 250.
And eventually we'll tell someone from the 400s, you could just start at 251.
Start when there was video, maybe. I don't know. Something like that. Yeah, that's probably, I guess, the era I would say you could maybe start. But then, like, I didn't have a beard back then. I don't like the way my chin looked. You know what I mean? So maybe start when I had facial hair. I'm happier with the way I look now.
We're only getting older, so you'll feel that way
but
for
better,
the end of time.
but better.
Maybe.
Yeah, there may or may not be a stream that I may or may not be doing sometime soon with one of these, where you might see a picture.
That could have looked like a bunch of
from years ago. Yeah, a stream where
you know what I'm saying.
I'm holding, for folks at home, I'm holding a PlayStation Move wireless controller.
For the kids at home that might not have been around in that era.
Yes. I mean, this is still usable on the PlayStation 5, so for the PlayStation VR 1.
Oh, I didn't know that.
This was the controller that they used for the VR, PS4 VR. Anyway, forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yeah, you're going to see an old picture of me, and I'm leaving that in there because I'm not deleting that save file. Okay. Sonic Advance. We do one of these big games every 50, a big deep dive where we talk about the history and all that, and then we do, we did Sonic, or the original for the Genesis, or Mega Drive, really. That was for 50, and then for 100 we did Sonic Adventure, another big milestone Sonic game for the Dreamcast. We did the Dreamcast version, and talked a little bit about the GameCube changes and how they are ugly and inferior. And then for 150, we did Sonic 06, the next, in my opinion, big milestone Sonic game, taking it into the HD generation and beginning the shit. Like, I consider Sonic 06, if folks maybe have not heard me say this a million times on this program, but I find Sonic 06 one of the 10 most important video games of all time. It is more important than every Mario or Zelda game, save for like one in each of those franchises. It is more important than 99.999% of everything Nintendo's ever made. And it's the worst video game of all time.
Yeah, if there's an Iron Mountain that Ethan just ran, you can only put 10 games in. Sonic 06 would be in there. I don't know if the Iron Mountain IRL has video games in it.
That's like behind Washington's head, right?
Something like that. It's somewhere. I think it's in Pennsylvania.
Mount Rushmore, really? I know that there's a vault in Mount Rushmore. But Devin also didn't know Fort Knox was a vault, so until recently. So maybe I'm
was
vault-pilled.
You're vault pilled. Well, I knew I thought it was just a military base. I didn't realize it had like a bunch of gold
fort in the name. I guess I understand, but.
Yeah, but there's, I think in Pennsylvania, whatever, doesn't matter. But there's like, they usually put like, every year they announce like, oh, here's 5 movies or like important pieces of literature,
it's like the Library
or whatever.
of Congress, but for preservation, right?
Yes, because like I remember I think like Ozzy's Crazy Train like demo recording is in there. I learned through his little show he did with his son in like 2018, but I wonder if they have video games there. I would assume they would.
I bet. I mean, again, the 10
only American video games, all right? So
it's Pac-Man, Doom, Mario, the original Super Mario Brothers. I would put Tetris in there. I'd put
Grand
Sonic
Theft
6 in
Auto.
There. Not a single one of those is in there. But I would put.
I feel like Grand Theft Auto 5 should be in there by default, just from selling.
Important, I guess it depends on what you mean by important, because
that definitely represents America.
I would say 3 in terms of the state of like the evolution of video games. Yeah. But 5 is like, because other than that, you would put
cultural phenomenon.
One of the Roblox games would be in there. Whatever. Anyway, sure. Pac-Man is definitely in there, and Sonic 06 is as important as Pac-Man and Super Mario Brothers, the original, and no other Mario game is as important. Not as good. Okay, but we did that for 150. And then 200, man, this is a long-winded intro. For 200, we did Shadow the Hedgehog for the
Which
Shadow
was a good
movie
choice, because Shadow was coming out in the movie, and then there was the Year of Shadow, which we didn't
turned out to be nothing.
Turned out to be well, actually, it was a lot. All right, according to this one TikTok comment that when we did a clip of that, of you saying that was funny. Regardless, yes, we did Shadow for the Year of Shadow, even though we did it before it was announced, I think, technically. But whatever.
Yeah, maybe.
Now we're here. We're in the advanced stage of this show
of cancer.
Oh, please not. No,
This is stage 4, baby. Yes, Sonic Advance. This is an important milestone Sonic game, nonetheless. We did Shadow the Hedgehog because that was whenever you would talk to people who aren't Sonic pilled. Maybe people our age or a little bit older that have opinions about video games. Yeah, the spin dash pill. But people with opinion on video games of our age or older, especially the ones that grew up with the Genesis and those 2D games, who naturally are like, those are the good ones, and then when it went 3D, they were bad. But like asking or just thinking about having conversations with people within these groups about like, hey, when did Sonic start to go? There's so many different starting points. People would say Sonic Adventure. They might say Sonic 3 because it's not as good as Sonic 2, and then, derivative, that type of stuff, or the spin-offs like Sonic 3D Blast or Spinball, whatever. But like after Sonic Adventure 2, then it's Sonic Heroes, and then Shadow, and like people are okay with Heroes, but Shadow was shaky, right? And then you get Sonic 06, and that's the twist of the knife. So that's why Shadow was important. And also, you were playing a Shadow the Hedgehog, and it's his only game. That's why we did that.
Sonic Advance hasn't made many appearances since then, except for the new Sonic Generations there.
Yeah. He's been absent. They should get rid of Knuckles. He shouldn't be in there anymore. That's a joke, but it made someone mad, so that's why I said it. Sonic Advance is important, though. This was the first Sonic game on a Nintendo console. This wasn't the first Sonic game not on a Sega machine. I don't know if there was one before Sonic's Pocket Adventure for the Neo Geo Pocket, but that's the earliest one that comes to my mind. And actually, the devs of that game, are the primary devs of this game, rather. So there was work on that as well. But so essentially, we know the Dreamcast is dying. It's 2001. Dreamcast is dying.
The dream is over.
Dream is dead.
The Dreamcast dream is over.
Oh, I bet that was just as soon as Sega announced, made that public statement of we're a third-party publisher, essentially, at this point. How many articles had the headline of "The Dream is Dead"? You know what I mean? Officially. But you released Sonic Adventure 2 for the Dreamcast. And okay, this is our swan. This isn't their swan song, but as the mainstream game, it's the swan song of Sega as a platform holder, as well as just the Dreamcast's last major notable mainstream video game. It's not the last one, but it is as far as that's concerned. So okay, you're working on third-party games, right? Okay, we got to port this game to the GameCube. Sonic Team's working on that, learning GameCube stuff. They've never worked with the Game Boy Advance, but we should probably put one out there because that machine launched this year, in 2001. Let's contact our buddies at Dimps, who kind of came from Sega. Some of them did. Were partially funded by Sega and Bandai. And
what a name, by the way, Dimps.
DIMPS.
They're like, guys. Hear me out. Dimps.
I'm sure it stands for something. I'm sure it's an acronym. But to me, whenever I would hear that, I would be like, "Oh, that sounds like middleware, like the Havoc engine." You know what I mean? Like it sounds like it's a piece of software, a tool, not like here's our team at Dimps. But Dimps made primarily were the devs of Sonic Pocket Adventure for the Neo Geo Pocket Color. I have that cartridge. I have that game.
I mean, I guess it could be a translation thing that doesn't work as well in English, but I don't know.
It culturally stands for something more recognizable, maybe. That's an easy assumption to make for a lot of things that could also just be we thought the name was fun, and we just don't know that.
It's their first game they developed was Digimon Battle Spirit, right before Sonic Advance. So it's the same year, 2001, but technically, I think Digimon Battle Spirit is a fighting game, interestingly enough.
I think it's an arena fighting game, like a third-person perspective thing. But yeah, those people were under different teams, and I think Dimps kind of officially formed around this time, but those people worked on games kind of together. yes, I guess they had some Game Boy Advance expertise or just experience rather, and so they got hired to be the actual boots on the ground in the trenches coding devs, while Sonic Team themselves said this is what we want, and that's what DIMPS would become, a work for hire team. That's like, you design the video game, we will make the video game. The biggest DIMPS game I'm aware of, besides all the Sonic handheld games, is Street Fighter 4 for the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, right, and 3DS. It came to 3DS. That was my launch day 3DS game, and it sucked. Yeah, it sucked, but it was okay. That was like developed by Capcom, but like DIMPS was like the people actually making it. You know what I mean? They were the ones actually coding and putting all that stuff, but like they didn't design anything. They didn't make any decisions, you know what I mean? Unless it was like, hey, this isn't working. How about we do this? Maybe that type of decision, but like that's kind of what DIMPS is still. There's a few companies that are like that. Is it R2? The team that made Sonic Superstars, the last 2D Sonic game.
Yeah. Okay.
That's another one of these companies that's like, hey, we're a work for hire, team.
We don't talk about Superstars.
we don't talk about Superstars. That game could have been good. Sonic Advance. What do you think about it, Devin?
Well, I mean, it definitely. First off, I never played it. I didn't have any Sonic mobile games. In general, I don't think I guess this would be the first Sonic mobile, like handheld mobile, whatever you want to call it, game. For folks who don't know, my first kind of introduction to Sonic was Sonic 2, if I'm not mistaken, on the. I know we've had this conversation before, and I don't remember what the console was because it was so long ago. But regardless, played Sonic 2, and then I didn't really touch Sonic for a long time until probably when we played Sonic Forces. If I can interject, yes.
Before folks at home are shouting, "Oh, Sonic 2 was a Genesis game, idiot!" There's multiple versions of that game he could have played it on the compilation or something like that.
I think I had a Genesis. I don't remember. I was 4,
3,
5.
Before reading age.
Yes. I guess the other time I played Sonic, even before that, was I remember someone at work gave me the Excel Sonic. Like I would play in Excel. That's what he was doing instead of working.
I actually remember in elementary school, either 5th or 6th grade, in computer lab, on addictinggames.com or one of those sites, someone had ported
math games.
Someone had ported Sonic Advance 2 to Flash, and you had played that, and I was mad.
So never mind.
I was like, you should be able to play this, because I had to get this game for Christmas or whatever it was. Like, this is not how it's supposed to be. You shouldn't be able to. And then I had, I'm not going to out myself. And then I discovered, hey, there's other ways to play Game Boy Advance games than on a Game Boy Advance. But yeah.
But regardless, I'm taking too long with this. What I'm going to say is, first time really playing this. And for me, like, it kind of just looks like of that era. I think it looked pretty decent for the most part. Some of the levels, I did like the first level the most. Shockingly, that seems to be a trend with a lot of the Sonic games that we've played. I'm like, oh, I love this first level. I hope this continues. And then,
I guess the level that's going to be played the most, I guess that wouldn't be the worst thing to have be someone's favorite, right? If you're a designer.
If you're not confident in your album, coming out, you put the first single, the best single, as the very first track on the album, hoping people will be like, all right, I'll listen to the rest, I'm joking, of course, but no, really, I mean, the first zone there, which I originally called Beach Hills, because it just had that beachfront look to it, but it's called Neo Green Hill Zone. But there's a lot of cool details like throughout some of the levels with like we both noticed the shimmering of the ice on Ice Mountain was cool. There was on the Neo Green Beach Hill Zone, I'm calling it that. Sure. Like the water reflection looked pretty cool. But then some of the other levels looked like there's too much going on, which was still impressive, I guess, for what I just remember from this era. But like sometimes it felt like it was a little too much. Generally speaking, it seems like it felt like a shorter game than the other Sonic games that we've played, which I think is sometimes a good thing. But if the game starts getting too tough, like we struggled a bit with like Angel Island Zone, and then what was the other one? The Ed Rocket Zone.
We gave
sucked
up in that one. Yeah.
But the first couple three are fun. Like I think are pretty cool. You have your 4 characters there, but it kind of just didn't feel like it. And this is my opinion, even with like the other, even like Sonic Superstars. I know I shouldn't mention it. I just said I wouldn't, but Sonic Superstars, where I'm like, I didn't really care to like replay the game as the other characters, like especially when it feels like it's Sonic, but maybe you can fly now, as opposed to like some sort of restriction or some sort of
variety. I mean, granted, that game had multiplayer, so like that's a little bit different. Like, okay, they can all do the same thing because we need to keep them on screen. But yeah, in this game where like 3 of the characters are Sonic, one of them can also fly, one of them can also glide and punch, and then you have a 4th character who has a bunch of neat stuff, but is worse.
Has a love hammer.
It's like, here's a character who is different, but that's only because she also Amy can't do the spin dash stuff that Sonic can do, and Tails and Knuckles, you know what I mean? So it is a little weird. I mean, like there's rails that Amy and Sonic can grind and Tails and Knuckles can't, but like effectively getting through the levels for Tails and Knuckles is just easy mode compared to Sonic, and certainly Amy. Amy is hard mode in my opinion.
Basically, but there's no, I don't know. I just don't really care for that. I've said it many times on this Ethan Said program earlier. I like that. It sounds better than podcast or this content you're watching. Everyone's favorite word now. On this program, PBS or SMS.
WXSI.
I'm not a big fan of the Sonic and Friends, at least not in the video game aspects. I'm okay just playing as Sonic. That's what I'm here for. He's top billing.
He's in the title, yeah.
Unless it's Shadow. The Shadow game.
Then I'm like, all right, give me a Knuckles game, and then I will actually.
If it was a Rouge game, I will always play that. We all know this.
Lone Gun. We know.
Where was Rouge in this game? That's my question. That's the biggest L out of all these. Out of all the criticisms I have. But no, you have your Tiny Chow Garden as well. Sure, whatever. But this kind of just felt like, what if we did Sonic Adventure, make it 2D and make it quicker in the sense of, or shorter because it's a Game Boy game, and kids will have fun. That's kind of what it felt like, which is fine. I think overall it just felt like it was fine. Like, it had some cool moments. The boss fights, I felt like, at least, maybe I'm going back to Sonic Superstars. I keep mentioning it. I said I wouldn't, but I keep mentioning it. The bosses, were just simple and
slow, with moments where you couldn't do anything, couldn't attack them, where you had to watch and wait. Yeah. Well, awful music played.
But I'm also okay with, I don't know, I'd rather the games should be fast-paced in theory, and at least in 2D games, sometimes you need the boss to slow it down a little bit. So,
sure,
But regardless, I think it's fine. Like, I wasn't like blown away by it. But it felt like I said better than how I remember the time. But then I know, like, off air we were talking about, like, oh well, there was these type of games out at this time. So I don't know, but like, I guess for how I remember, I was playing Pokemon and that was pretty much it. And I think I had Gex and Donkey Kong Country. Around this time. So
yeah,
for me, this 2002, I'd have been like, oh wow, this looks pretty good.
Yeah, I get it. Like, so I never played this game as a kid, but I had Sonic Advance 2. Sonic Advance 2, as the announcer voice would say, which always like shocked me. Like, there's a voice.
There's a narrator.
Video game. Yeah, there's just for this part. But so yeah, I never played this one, so this was my first time experiencing it. And it is like, Sonic Advance 2 makes a couple choices that are like improvements. This game, Sonic Advance 1, begins levels like the Genesis games where Sonic's just standing there. Oh, I can start now. Just start running is a slow run. Sonic Advance 2 began levels with a start of a race kind of starting line. Get ready, get set. He's bent down, and then he begins to run. So you can actually start a level at speed, which felt cool. Because, like, a lot of the Sonic Adventure levels, or at least, the famous ones that people remember, begin with you already running. And that's, it's fun. It's exciting. That's what he's here for. As far as, like, the level design goes, I mean, like, I don't really think any of the 2D Sonic games post the Genesis, except I Guess Mania, and I'll put a pin in I Guess Mania. I don't think any of them really have what I would say is good level design. It has level design. Sometimes there's bad level design, but I think there is a design decision that requires, or like, to make good level design and for one of these 2D Sonic games, I think requires a lot of time, effort, and like reiteration rather, on a level over and over again, testing and testing. Is this good? What's good here? Like, that is, it's not as simple as like other types of 2D platformers, where speed isn't that big of a factor, where you kind of can plop elements around and be like, okay, yes, move stuff here, we can have ideas. But with Sonic, because you're kind of guilting the player into assuming that they need to be going fast, whether or not that's actually your intention, that like the player needs to be going as fast as possible, don't stop ever, you're preventing like some fun and interesting gameplay ideas to happen. So your options are limited, blah blah blah. Also, the screen real estate, Sonic's a little bit too big. You don't see too far ahead of yourselves. There were many points in this game where I did not see the pit, and I couldn't react to it unless I knew it was there. And there is a pit, and there's a bottomless pit, and there's a platform we can jump on right away, but it's moving up and down, so like you could have the reaction, but not the timing naturally. If you were just like experiencing it for that first moment, or maybe had forgotten, there's that type of stuff in there. So I wouldn't say. My point being is that like I don't want to say like, hey, this game has bad level design, because relative to other 2D Sonic games from this point forward, and a lot of the Genesis games as well, please don't kill me in the comments, it's on par with a lot of that stuff. Mania's taking the pin out. Taking the pin out this way. Mania is a special case where, yes, there was a lot of care and attention being paid to it. But it was, in my opinion, not that that's about this game's review or whatever we're doing here, too beholden to how classic Sonic games worked, so that it didn't solve the how do you make excellent level design. They reiterated a lot, and they did good ones, but I think it's what I'm pointing is that like, while like I don't think this was like the best 2D platform I've certainly played on that Game Boy Advance or anything like that. It's just inherently a part of Sonic's design. And so I can't blame this game too much for not like being like great. If that's a long-winded way of saying, I think the game is just fine for what it is. The graphics and all that are neat, but like that second zone, Secret Base, especially the second part of Secret Base, second act of Secret Base rather, is their graphics are so busy and you're moving so fast that it's just like nonsense blur. The Game Boy Advance had, something that the Game Boy Color and Game Boy Original couldn't do. It had a sprite scaling and rotation, Mode 7 as people would call it on the Super Nintendo, because that system could do that as well. Faking the idea of having a sprite rotate instead of actually animating different sprites to make that happen. You can actually just take the image and spin it, and it fits to the pixel grid as best it can. Sonic does that when he goes through the loop. I can do that here with my little ring.
Wow.
And stuff like that. And I don't think it looks that great a lot of the times, even when Sonic is running or any of the other characters, right? And he runs like this in this game. He doesn't run with the looping legs. He runs like this, like your fingers do. Maybe that was a thought that they had. When you're going up some slight inclines or declines, the sprites get truncated and squished in a way that like looks weird. that I'm not that big of a fan of. But overall, I think the game is colorful and attractive looking. The music is fine, in my opinion.
I mean, for Sonic, how Sonic music goes, I feel like it's definitely on the lower end, though. Like, I don't remember any tracks specifically.
The ones that stick out to me are the older Sonic tracks they threw in the options menu. When you're,
it's in the not options. Like when if you play Sonic the first game for the first time, you're gonna remember a chemical plant like you just are, or Green Hills. So
Right. And hey, all this being said, as I know you said something I wanted to bring back, but it was basically about like, for what is here, what is expected around this time. How long do they have to develop this for? Is probably less than a year. You know what I mean? Like I can imagine Dimps not having that much time, and that's why the game is 9 acts or 9 zones, 2 acts with a boss at the end, each, which. This era, and even I would say deep into midway through PS4 generation. So from this era, 2001, until like let's say 2016, basically around the time live service games started to happen, game length was just a big sticking point. And this isn't like a call out statement or anything like that about reviews or anything like that, but like everyone was like that. Oh, this game's too short. Oh, this game's too short. That type of thing. Like I want this game to be longer. And like yes, it is a tired statement now to be like games are too long. I want them shorter. When I hear this Claire Obscure game is only 30 hours for an RPG, a JRPG type of game, I'm like, great. You mean I could do everything in less than 3 days or less than 2 days of actual game time versus others? Like that's great. But reviews hit this game for being short as about the same amount of levels as the Genesis games, which I think you're doing a handheld throwback kind of game. When you have your big 3D Sonic games pushing things forward, this is fine. That's acceptable to me. Replay value, we have the other characters, but as we kind of said, it is Sonic but better, Sonic but betterer, and Sonic but worse.
I don't remember. Were the Game Boy games in general cheaper than your PS1? I'm assuming yes, right? Yes. I don't remember because I wasn't paying for it back then. But so I feel like if we have that context too of like this being a handheld game, that any extra game length, I guess, is more bang for your buck compared to because there definitely was in this time when there was games you'd buy in the PS1 for whatever it was
for $50,
$50 that might only be 10 hours.
And then the advent of discs and CD-ROMs really allowed them to print them for cheap, which means you could get away for selling Parappa the Rapper. Maybe we streamed that recently for $40 or $20 or something like that. Pepsi Man was $20, the equivalent of $20. That type of thing, right? You could have them for cheaper, right? Cartridges obviously have to be manufactured and they cost money, but still, I know for a fact Nintendo DS games published by Nintendo tended to be $35, while non-Nintendo made DS games were $30. So I cannot imagine Game Boy Advance games being more expensive than what DS was. So I'm imagining $30 around there. And then honestly, like you go too cheap, then like these sales numbers would be a lot bigger because Sonic Advance is in the top 10, I think, best-selling Game Boy Advance games. And it's only at like 1.5 million. I could probably look that up to double check, but like, this is an early Game Boy Advance game. Obviously, it launched in Japan the same year.
And how many people had Game Boy Advance compared to Game Boy? It's like a Switch 2, I feel like, or rather Wii U, maybe a situation where, like, oh, I don't need to buy the new.
I don't know what the early thing was, but like, you got to remember though, Game Boy Color, yes, was like a people debate on whether or not Game Boy Color is its own console or just like a Game Boy Pro, if that makes sense. Because Nintendo will say it's its own thing, but they combine Game Boy Color when they want to talk about consoles sold, units sold. They combine the computer mouse falling as well. No, I'm kidding. But like because there's not a lot of games that are exclusive, and some games like Pokemon Gold and Silver work on the original Game Boy. Like there's that type of thing. But like if you do count Game Boy Color as a Game Boy version, original Game Boy version with color, it had a better processor and could do more animations and whatever. Um, 1989. That's when the Game Boy came out. Game Boy Advance.
Damn.
11 years later, right? So, no, 12 years later, 2001. So, like...
I mean, I got the
that,
Game Boy Color,
you'd
then
be
the
like,
Game
man,
Boy
I've had this
Advance.
forever.
Yeah.
Here's a brand new one, you know. And yeah, like, I had the Game Boy Color in, I guess, 2000 with Pokemon Gold, because that was the year that came out. And, like, that's why I didn't get the Game Boy Advance itself immediately. I had the SP, because, goddamn, you just got this. You just got a Game Boy. You know what I mean? From the perspective of parents. Like, you just got one.
I was actually surprised I got Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and Game Boy SP. I feel like pretty, at least granted, when you're young, all the time seems...
be a crawl. But also at the same time,
So I don't remember how quick I got all of them, but I remember getting all three and then still using all three at some point. When I was playing the Pokemon games, I would like switch between them. So like, I remember having all of them at my one house that we moved into in late 1999, early 2000. So like I can kind of range the time there. But and this is coming from my family who didn't really buy new consoles or anything like that. Right. At least not right away. So to have all three, granted they were probably more affordable than the new PS2 or whatever. You know.
Well, the original Game Boy launched at $90. Original Game Boy was a $90 machine, which is, I'm granted, obviously prices increased.
Inflation.
And the consoles themselves, like the Super Nintendo, which would have launched 2 years later, that was $200. Okay, I look at a $200 console now and I'm like, awesome. Sign me up. You know what I mean?
I would probably, even if like Xbox was like, yo, we got a $150 console right now, I'd be like, fuck it, why not? You know?
Yes. I impulse purchased this PlayStation remote player PlayStation Portal because it was $150 in a sale,
which I for the longest time thought was something you could attach to the tablet, and I was like,
it's a weird device, but I like it for as limited as it is. But just that novelty of like a cheaper price looking thing. But so look, this was our long way of being like, how many people got Game Boy Advances right away to play this? I know the Game Boy Advance did have some hits at the beginning in its first year. There was a port of Mario 2 right away. There was a new Castlevania 2D, like Symphony of the Night. You hadn't had one since that game, so that was a big thing. Like early Game Boy Advance, I feel like was hitting, but I don't know how quickly the adoption rate was. But Sonic Advance was one of the best-selling games of the system. It obviously warranted 2 sequels and at least 2 other spin-offs on the Game Boy Advance itself. I believe all developed by Dimps, with Sonic Team telling them what to do. So we can still blame them for the decisions. Like, hey, I love how they decided when there's deep snow in Ice Mountain, you just don't get to run.
Weird.
You kind of trudge through it.
It was a weird decision. I mean, I get Sonic. Like maybe they're trying to show off like, oh, look, we can slow you down, but like it felt kind of pointless because it wasn't like, because I don't remember the boss fight was actually, which was one of the cooler ones, don't get me wrong, but like the boss fight didn't incorporate like, okay, you're stuck in the snow, maybe you get slowed down,
right? Because that boss fight you were underwater with the icicles, which I did like that boss fight for what it was, but
the whole snow thing didn't feel like it was used for anything outside of just like, yep, we can slow you down, but then we never really show it again. So I don't know.
Guess what? We can be annoying. Yeah. So I mean, like this game is like an interesting milestone. Again, the first on Nintendo console. Sonic Adventure 2 would get ported shortly after this game would come out onto the GameCube itself as Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, which I have. I can actually see it right now. It's in a tote staring at me through the clear plastic container that it lives in.
Crying your name.
Actually, yes, crying my name. It says, play me. You never got all the emblems on your memory. You can still do that. You have your memory card. It's not plugged into the GameCube. I have to find that memory card. But you can do that. But yeah, so this is a milestone, and I'm glad we experienced it. We played it. There's a lot of Sonic handheld games I never played because, like you, I might get one handheld game or 2 a year. You know what I mean? Like, I remember for 1 year I got to pick my father. I was talking about Metroid Fusion, I think it was, that my friend had at school, and he saw online, or I saw online, I don't know how, that, oh, there's another Metroid game on the Game Boy Advance as well. Do you want this for Christmas? And I remember being like, yeah. Yes, I do. So like that sticks out to me as like, is this,
my big
I wouldn't
one
have
was,
been able to play a bunch.
My big one, and I know you've probably heard this story, but I don't know if I've shared it on this program before. One Christmas, my grandma got me, crystal, silver, and gold all in one Christmas. Like, it was like the best ever. I remember it vividly. Yeah. I remember like the lighting of the room, because I was like all the little details, because you're like, I'm
tearing up thinking about it right now. Yeah. I can imagine.
And I was like, cool, I get to do each starter on each one, and like that's what I did. So it was nice. I didn't feel like I needed to pick one. I was like, doesn't matter, I get to do them all.
And if that happened today, it'd be like, oh my god, this is worth so much money. Don't destroy those boxes. All us American kids threw out those
they're
boxes.
Probably all gone now. Or like, I know my Pokemon Yellow my mom sold with a bunch of other games for like $5 because she was just getting rid of shit. So
yeah. But hey, it's moms like yours that make me want to go out for garage sales, because there's lots of people that still do that. Yeah, my Pokemon Silver, I had gold, and then my mom, I think, bought silver mainly for herself, because she helped me play through gold. She helped. Why are we talking about Pokemon? Whatever. She we had a furret that was like high level, and that's what beat the Elite Four. So she bought silver for herself, and then I don't know if this happened before Crystal came out and I got Crystal, but I remember we were moving. I had this big plastic toy chest full of crap, a lot of McDonald's and Wendy's and Burger King stuff in there. And I was moving, and they're like, Eric, okay, do you want all? I don't even think there was a question of do you want all of this, because it was like, we are not taking this with us, so take out the toys you want. Did I do that, Devin?
No, you
did. My lazy 5-year-old ass do that?
No, you didn't.
No, I am 99% sure silver was in that thing, and they really did throw it out. They did not look through to be like, is there anything actually valuable in here?
Or maybe they just dropped it off at Goodwill and called it a day, and then
they did not do that. They would have thrown that out. Maybe I'm not giving them any credit, but yes. So like, long story short, I didn't play a lot of Sonic handheld games, because it was like, I mean, replay value-wise, yes, there's the Tiny Chow Garden, which Devin briefly mentioned, but I experienced that as I plugged my Game Boy Advance into my GameCube, and I just put it on my Game Boy Advance because there was not much in there. It was running on system memory, which was magic to me. I did not have that concept. I'm like, how can there be a game? There's no game cartridge in here to put it on. How is it doing this? You know what I mean? But that had me thinking, like, well, they should make blank game cartridges that like the GameCube can put full games on, like that. They never did that.
I mean,
yeah, that was that. But point being, sorry, I bring up the Tiny Chow Garden just to complete my thought. That is, at least within the context of just this game by itself, without the GameCube support and all that stuff, like, here is not necessarily replay value, but like, I guess in the modern day gaming landscape with these live service games, the thing that, the sticky point, the thing that keeps you booting the game up to be like, hey, I can still play with this Chow, and I'm collecting rings in the main game because they go into this mode. I can buy stuff for the Chow. Maybe it goes hungry and we don't know how to buy it food when we were briefly playing. I definitely did that as a kid, but whatever. All that stuff. That was something to let you like, hey, you aren't just playing these levels and then done. There's something to keep this game around. Please do not return it to GameStop.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like Neopets, I think. Like, if you're a kid playing that, you get attached to your Chow, so yeah, you're not gonna want to get rid of it. Like you said, bring it to
Tamagotchis,
That's how it works. That's how they get you more attached to it, is we make a cute little thing and you don't want to delete that save file. It's one of the reasons it still works as an adult, because I still haven't revisited my Animal Crossing island,
because they'll be mad at you.
Because I'm gonna be mad at you, and I will feel bad. Even though they're just code, I will feel bad. I'll be like, you're right, I left you for 4 years, okay? I'm sorry.
Yeah, but a Nintendo of America employee wrote their dialogue, and they had enough creative freedom to make some of them a little bit sassy. So you'd be like, damn, you're going to say that to me? I made you exist by booting up this video game. Yeah. No, I mean, like, it was a craze, the Tamagotchi stuff, and if we remember from the Sonic Adventure episode, it was only 150 episodes ago, of this program, right? That began as an A-Life, a part of a Saturn type of project with what's it called? That Sonic team game with the purple Jester Man, Nights into Dreams, and
Dreams
that
into
was
Nights.
Specifically like, oh my god, Tamagotchis are like huge right now in Japan. You know what I mean? Like, you had like rip-off type stuff. Like, remember Monster Rancher? It's a PS1 game. They had a bunch of sequels. Monster Rancher was a PS1 game that was like, hey, because we can load a bunch of stuff for this game into system memory, you can take your disc out and don't turn the system off. Now put another CD in this game, and we're going to read some data off the CD, whatever.
Okay, Monster
like,
Rancher looks really sick, though.
It's
like,
weird.
There's like a Golem Geodude. If Geodude kept evolving,
with the single eyeball thing.
Yeah. Well, there's like one buff dude, and there's an eyeball. It's like Digimon and Pokemon had a baby. Okay, this seems interesting.
How it worked basically is you put a bunch of CDs in there, and it would add monsters to your ranch. Because there's something about the CD format where there's always some sort of code somewhere that it can read that's basically random as far as the game is concerned. And it's like, okay, almost, you remember seeing commercials for those barcode scanner games?
Yes,
and you're like, oh my god, I'm just going to run through a supermarket and scan everything. Like, Monster Rancher basically was that for CDs.
Cool.
And that was a Tamagotchi type of thing as well.
They should bring I'm sure there is, but we got to find a way to do barcode or something.
Everyone has a bunch of 2 gigabyte USB drives somewhere in a box, right? Put them in there until you find something, and that a man had illegally.
But then they're gonna find, like, knowing how our world works, and then they're stealing all that to like use for some generative AI bullshit. They're using all your mom's photos of her wedding on that thumb drive. That you just got a cool monster out of, and they're uploading it to the ether of for AI advertising.
I guess the closest equivalent I could think of like, hey, real world things that I have to grab to interact with this game that like I might not have access to, because obviously like they've done digital card games, or they've done card games where like camera scans that you print all of them out. It's not the same. Like that type of thing. I guess you could burn CDs, but that would have been really expensive back in the day to do, right? I guess the modern equivalent would be like a Pokemon Go, where it's like these locations, right? Because you can't...
Because there might be something in like...
A server can tell if you're faking it, but I guess...
In this one town, and, you're in the other...
Exactly. This Pokemon can only be from Mr. Mime's, only in Europe. I remember when that game came out, they're like, each continent or whatever has an exclusive Pokemon. I guess I'm never getting these because you can't trade, and I'm not going to Australia anytime soon. I'm broke and I work at Kmart. It came out that summer when we were working Kmart.
Yes, because that was one of the...
I remember that.
Yeah, because I had the power stick to keep my phone charged so I can keep playing.
We went to KFC on our lunch breaks or whatever.
Hell yeah.
Which was across the street, and because there was a spot where Pokemon would pop up there. But yeah, Chow's. Wish they would come back. And I know that's like,
why don't they do a Chow Pokemon Go? See, that's something I feel like they could do. Like this, or not even maybe not have to travel anywhere, but just like maybe, unless there maybe is one, maybe, but I don't know.
No, Sega, to my knowledge, doesn't have any GPS games like that made. But like, if they were to make one, I guess I would have them not go with Niantic, the makers of Pokemon Go, and the Harry Potter game that I think is dead, and the Monster Hunter game, which I think is still going, and Pikmin. Nintendo had them make a Pikmin one because Saudi Arabia owns Niantic now. They bought it. A company owned by Saudi Arabia bought it.
I mean, Saudi Arabia does have like a lot of shit.
They have a lot of
we don't even realize
video game.
They still technically own Twitter. Like, they're not majority owners, but like they have a cut.
They have a lot
of that.
They own 3% of Nintendo or something like that. But
I feel like they have like 1% like in everything. Like it'd be like, what don't they have? Is more like the
and
question.
To be clear, I only find that as ish because that the Saudi royal family murdered that journalist. and is clearly like the types of people who would do that. There's nothing else about the region or anything like that. But our famous Rambo the orangutan lives in Dubai, I think, right? Is that where she lives?
I think in
Abu Dhabi,
United Arab Emirates, I think, is like they have their own beach, private beach, which is like sick. Just look up Rambo the orangutan if you don't know what we're talking about. You probably actually
taught her how to drive, and she can drive a golf cart all by herself.
And not just a golf cart, other vehicles as well.
I haven't seen those. That sounds reckless. Yep, Rambo's forklift certified.
If Planet of the Apes does happen in real life, it's going to start from, like, there.
TikTok apes.
Yeah.
Apes that have been taught to make shirts
once they learn how to do TikTok, then... Like,
I meant the ones that are part of that are on TikToks being.
Oh no! I thought you were things. No, I was like, if they figure out how to like be content creators and be influencers, it's only a matter of time. Yeah,
done. Yeah,
and I am for one cheering for them because I still think they should be part of society. If they can drive, they're pretty. I mean, what else is different?
Sonic's different.
Yes.
Anyway, I don't remember how we got here.
There was not apes, but monkey bad guys in this. On the one level, they were throwing
coconuts
at trees.
Yeah.
How about this? How about this to maybe round this out?
Take a zone.
We say our favorite zone, least favorite zone. I mean, we kind of already said we both like Sonics, I guess. Not that, but or if there's anything else, I guess. So let's do favorite zone. What's the we have to come to agreement. What is the Sonic movie show zone award for this game in particular? Because for me, I feel like it's the first one again. But
sure,
like I mentioned at the top. Zone. But I feel like it's boring to say that.
For me, it would be the zone that we did not initially write a name down for, but it's actually called Casino Paradise Zone, because I liked the way those neon signs looked. They looked flat on purpose. Like, it's weird to say because this is a 2D game, but like, you know how there's neon signs that are like the tubes, right? And the neon gas is through there, and you throw the electric signal through that and makes them light up. Right, that's how that I think works. Or neon is just coincidentally named after the element. I don't know how that works, but I think it's a gas that's in those tubes.
I don't know. Does the gas go away?
Well, it's sealed, right?
But
whatever.
How do they make it somehow?
Point being is that they're round, right? And so when you look at a neon sign, there is a 3D element of it, and we've seen them depicted even in 2D games like that as well. But like this was more like a light up panel work to make some of the background elements, and I liked that. I was like, that's a little bit different, very Vegas-y, more so than like there's been in other 2D Sonic games. Lots of casino zones or whatever. Even from
promoting gambling, by the way,
Spring Yard Zone and all that stuff.
Promoting gambling at a young age. See, we're getting indoctrinated.
Pokemon stopped doing the game corner stuff because it was promoting gambling. I'm like, that's my favorite part.
And if you're Balatro though, then you get,
they got that reversed because they threw a stink about it. Just trying to get attention. Be like, FIFA is rated E, and you literally gamble in that game versus. But anyway, I found this. There's been plenty of casino zones in the 2D Sonic games leading into this one, and just in Sonic in general. And this one still felt unique because of that. So I would personally give it to that. But I did like the graphics of Neo Green Hill Zone, aka Beach Hill Zone, aka Sand Hill Zone, which is what you initially called it in our off-air. Discussion.
More like Sandhill. What a quote. The only memorable quote from Sonic Forces. What a game.
One of these milestone episodes will be Sonic Forces. Maybe 450.
We should
somewhere around there.
And I think we should just stream it like we fucking did. Basically,
we played it in one sitting back in the day.
We did. We got both got half pints of ice cream, and
was it that day? Because I remember
the ice cream. No, that was Pokemon.
I was watching Pokemon, the first movie, and being like, damn, this sucks. I was shocked at, okay, it's fine. with my expectations, it was an episode of the Pokemon show that was a movie length. But I was literally remembering as like the greatest thing ever as a child, and I was so let down.
We played it in one night, and that's kind of honestly where like our mutual, like we both I generally liked Sonic. Ethan was definitely more the Sonic fan, capital S Sonic capital fan.
F. For respects.
Capital F fan. But that was like the first time we at the time too, I was also in college away, so it was like first time in a while I think we sat down and played a whole game. It was after we both were working at Kmart, I think.
Probably around a day off or something.
Yeah, or whatever. And I was I think the first kind of oh, fucking Sonic, man. I don't know. It was just so I think without Sonic Forces though, as much as we shit on it, there might not be a Sonic movie show.
Folks, I will say this. I agree with Devin. And if people know me, statistically you don't, but if people know me, they know they know that I like to get PlayStation trophies in video games. And I have most of the Sonic Platinums. I have not gone for Sonic Superstars or Sonic X Shadow Generations. I want to, but it's a lot of Shadow Generations because you also have the Sonic Generations part in that same list as well. It's the same. It's basically 2 games for that. And Sonic Superstars, I just don't care for most of how that game works and blah, blah, blah. Sonic Forces, I have the Frontiers Platinum, don't worry. I have the Origins Platinum, don't worry.
Best Sonic game, by the way, Sonic Frontiers.
On this program.
We will stand on that business right now.
Absolutely. I will not take
we'll die on that hill.
And that we've said that since the day we made that review, and we have never gone back on it. We still stand by that. That is an excellent Sonic video game. I don't have the Sonic Forces Platinum, and I looked at the list, and it's bullshit. You know how there's the red rings that they've been doing, or it's there's 5 in each level. It's a collectible. That's a trophy. Okay, get them all. That's a trophy. Fine, a guide. But once you get all the red rings in that game, then they put in another ring type of thing. There's 5 in these levels. They're not the same time. You have to get all the red rings, then you have to do all the levels again. And then there's a third one as well. That's bullshit, just padding for that. And there's daily login bonus bullshit trophies as well. Because that game had
does
that
it still log
there.
In though at this point?
I'm sure it does. Because I'm sure it's just one server just pinging.
What if...
My point is I wanted to say this. And maybe you're wrong. I'm willing to set up somewhat of a threshold metric thing if we pass, whether that be subscribers or what have you, or maybe later down the road we can monetize this channel if we reach a money goal. I will make that a streaming commitment of this game's getting fucking platinums. I don't know. We'll say that.
I was gonna say no. We do that or do it for a charity.
Charity doesn't deserve that. Bad stigma.
Well, I meant more you'd find a way to be oh, we just got to keep playing it.
Oh my god, I couldn't platinum it in one sitting. Are you kidding me? You insane.
Well, you get the daily one ahead of time. Just any ones that we could do. But then people can donate money to be okay, you just got to play the game.
Here's my
thing. Or maybe you restart the game. You're
no. No.
If you donate $10,000,
here's my thing with the long charity stuff. I love them. There's a fine line on how they're done because I've watched a lot of Extra Life streams. That's the kind of charity avenue we would go down, right? Because they set it up like that, make it easier for gamers, and they understand it. Gamers understand Extra Life, you know what I mean? But there's other things. I know you did PCF, and that's not an Extra Life thing, right? That was set aside as differently. Palestine Child...
PCRF, Palestine Children's
Relief Fund.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
PCF probably is a drug.
Yo, you doing that PCF tonight,
It's the feminine version of PCP. Only for the ladies.
Happy Women's History Month. We're getting that PCF.
But still the exact same as PCP.
Yeah, it's just it doesn't.
There's a fine line of how you make it where here's our goal and we got to do this all in one thing, but like even if willpower wise you're like, I will get through this, you eventually reach the realistic understanding of I can't.
Yeah.
And then what do you do? Do you just
no?
say
I mean,
stop?
it was just,
or do you do the H bomber guy thing where he starts sleeping under his desk while the stream keeps rolling? You know what I mean?
And that's where, to me, like, it starts to turn into like weird torture, almost porn. To like, where it's like, okay, like
I'm okay with that stuff if it's planned. I don't want it to be like, fuck, I guess I gotta commit to
there's
this.
the people be doing like, I saw like I've been staying up for 20 days straight. And it's like, bro, that's not worth it. It's not worth it. No matter
like you because of this.
like no, you're gonna have mental like health and brain damage from doing this. It's not normal to just be like, I'm just gonna randomly not fall asleep for 14 days. But hey, if you donate $1 million, then it's another week. And it's like, stop. You're gonna need more than $1 million to get your head back on straight if it's not permanent. So,
and I know Mega 64 did I guess you'd call it a parody thing where The Room was a full week of leaving Rocco in there. But there was planned bits a part of that whole thing, and it was not just the same.
Or the Mr. Beast guy, like where it was like, yeah, we locked him up in a week,
and and then he just starts screaming at the wall because he's literally lost his mind, not even as a bit, because he's in a room. I don't know, but my point being is that like, if it is like hey, we ain't stopping until we beat this game, that means the stream will go on. It would have to be on Twitch because YouTube stops you at 10 hours, I think, or it's 8.
Yeah,
I think it's 10.
You gotta do part 1s, then part 2s, and that just becomes.
But it's yeah, exactly. Twitch, whatever. It would have to be a planned thing where it's like, here's how this is working. Here's how like, I'm eventually gonna take a shower. Believe it or not, no, you don't get to watch that. Like that type of stuff. It would have to be a planned thing, but. Yeah. I will commit to the Sonic Forces
I can never
Platinum.
do more than I could barely do 12 hours when I've done stream. I am not. I don't have the stamina, unfortunately. The mental. My brain starts to quickly break and yells at me. But who knows? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe we'll do that one day. Hey, folks, like, subscribe, and share. Do it. God damn, do it.
Please. God damn it.
He needs.
If you're advanced, if you're Sonic advanced enough, you will subscribe.
Yes, I still want to do every 50 do an episode like this. Maybe the next one, if we have a bit more runway and lead up into planning for this, because we've been very, very busy. We both literally moved or in the process of moving.
Yes. Who knows? This might be the last time. This episode might be the last time we see this backdrop.
We recorded another episode that's going after this one.
You're right. Never mind. Pretend you didn't hear that.
But I think that will release whatever.
We don't want to commit to schedule. Sometimes shit happens.
A while from now.
We've also rebranded the channel in the last 6 months.
Yes,
we've also been adding more streams, and
yes,
we're adults.
And
okay, so it's tough out here.
Yes. We are no longer, because the last time we did one of these, we were still a channel called The Sonic Movie Show. Now we are S-Ranks. This is the first one of those that we've done it like this. As well, so yes, a lot going on. For 300, I don't want to commit to any of the games, but I have, depending on whether or not we can, and I want to do, like the Shadow one was a lot of fun.
If we survive
to research and set up for. If we're able to do a big one like that, there is a few that we could do, and I'm going to leave 3 options open for the kids at home to guess, because we will do one of these 3. I feel like if it is
breaking news,
one that we could do big one. It is either I gotta think of 2 that aren't it now. Gotta make sure, because the 2 other options as well. It would either be listen, Sonic Heroes. All right,
I've heard of that one.
Okay, Sonic Heroes. Does that sound
I
good?
I need a hero to save me, and I need a Sonic
hero
one.
to save me. Imagine playing that game 4 times. Because there's 4 sets of characters, just like this game here. Either Sonic Heroes or this might be crazy, Sonic Unleashed. Okay.
I'm unleashing the beasts.
I platinumed that game, but there's a Japanese version of it that has its own trophies. I would have to go for that at some point in the future. Just saying. That would be another milestone goal. Ethan plays a Japanese Sonic game, tries to recall the story.
Maybe
I'll
be decent enough after Duolingo that I can at least like translate some words to help. That'll be my contribution.
So it's either Sonic Heroes, Sonic Unleashed, or Sonic Lost World. I was going to call it Frontiers.
Not to be confused with the Jurassic Park film. Not related.
Sonic Lost World. Jurassic. Yeah, so it's one of those 3 games. One of those
Sonic.
And if not,
I'm just thinking of like Jeff Goldblum like in a Sonic the Hedgehog game would be kind of crazy.
No, he would be freaking dressed as Knuckles. You know it. He would be Knuckles.
Knuckles.
And if we don't do a big one of a big thing, if we have to do one that's more like this, it would be another handheld game. Dimps made the 2 DS games, Sonic Rush and Sonic Rush Adventure. They also did the DS and 3DS versions of Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations, and Sonic Lost World. I think they also did the 3DS version of Lost World as well. So you know what? Those are options. Maybe we'll just do Sonic 2. Or we do Sonic Advance 2. Or
we pull a Sonic movie review and we review the episode of what we recorded.
Yeah,
if we ever run out.
Maybe. Or you know what? Maybe we do Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games.
Wait, we could time that. When is the... Well, the Summer Olympics just happened. So last year. So in 3 years from now, we could time it.
So it would be 28.
We could time it.
2020. Yeah, it would be 2028.
And there's the World Cup. There's the World Cup. I don't think Sonic has a World Cup, but
no, the Mario Strikers is.
Is there Winter Olympics? Sonic and Mario?
Yeah, Mario and Sonic at the Winter Olympic Games. Yeah.
Is that this year or next year?
Well, it's every 2 years, and it's on the even years.
So Winter Olympics is every 2 years? It's every 4.
Well, no. There's an Olympics every 2 years. Because the summer and the winter are every 4 years, and they're 2 years off cycle.
We'll look it up. That's an option.
That's an option. We did a Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games on the 3DS. Remember, we did that stream where I did that experimental thing where it kept taking screenshots from my 3DS and sending it to my computer wirelessly, and that's how you watched the game with no audio. But I plugged the thing in or something like that. I forget how it worked. Yeah. There's a lot of options. Maybe we do Sonic. What I would love to do is on time where you are in person with me, or I bring it to you, and David's with us as well. On the Sega Dreamcast, we play what I've never seen. I've never seen what this looks like, but I've heard is just not good at all. Like, just fundamentally bad and flawed. Sonic Shuffle for the Dreamcast. It is their Mario Party type of game. But what if it's bad?
I mean, I'm already interested.
But I think that's hyping it up too much, because I think it's mainly about cards, and I don't think it's like how Mario Party works. So
we could do a thing where we use whatever cards are on the game we use in real life. Like we gotta.
I would also love to do a 50-turn Mario Party stream as well.
Is that the max?
In the classic games, yeah, it's 50. That's like 4 hours of Mario Party.
We're going 120.
3 games at once.
Best of 3. Best of 3. You gotta win.
No. You got 3 Nintendo 64s running at the same time, and like Mario Party 1, 2, and 3.
And who's paying attention to what? You know, you can you can be schemy.
There's plenty.
I just like the idea of you doing the long form of Mario Party, and then you gotta win it you gotta win it twice to God. So theoretically it's best of 3, but if there's 3 of us, it theoretically would be best of 6.
Here's another thing too, because I've seen,
if the math is correct,
I've seen the Mario Party long streams been done like this as well, where hey, at the end of every round, someone spins a wheel. What's on that wheel? Something they got to do, and maybe there's a wheel that's like, hey, spin the mini wheel. What's on the mini wheel?
Oh,
you play a level in a Sonic game, and that could just take forever.
Ethan's got to play all of Sonic Forces.
Fuck no. Although that would be possible to do in 6 hours at least, if not. I think we did only in like 4.
Ethan's turns are skipped until he finishes Sonic Forces.
And in those Mario Party games, you can turn someone into a CPU. You can have the CPU take over. So.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I've seen a little bit of the new one. It looks fun.
I played a
Mario
couple
Party.
rounds of Mario Party Jamboree, Super Mario Party Jamboree, as a Nintendo Switch 2 upgrade for it that has new mini games and modes and stuff. So, yeah. Sonic should make a Mario Party, if I'm being honest. Like
Yeah, why not? If they have plenty of
like,
characters.
yes, there was Sonic Shuffle, but they should try it again. You know what I mean? Like, they should just do it.
Sonic Advanced Shuffled.
And in fact, yeah, Sonic Advance is shuffled. The team that made the Mario Party games up until Mario Party 9 on the Wii was Hudson, and that's a third-party company. You get those people, you make a Sonic one. You know what I mean? Like, get the people who made the Mario Parties you hate, but you love because you played them as a child, but you hate them because they're bullshit in a fun way to make Sonic. There we go. That would be fun.
Sonic Party. Sonic Chow Party. Sonic Advanced Party Child.
I don't think you need to get too creative with it. You could call it Sonic Party because guess what? At Summer Game Fest, Lego Party was announced. It is a Mario Party ripoff with Lego.
They're allowed to do that?
Called Lego Party.
So.
Yeah, I mean, you can't copyright gameplay mechanics and structure. You know what I mean?
That's true. There's been how many, like, shooters that are just Call of Duty or whatever trying to be.
And Call of Duty itself was just Medal of Honor back in the day. If they were ripping off someone else as well, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Just like we're ripping off someone.
Listen, we're certainly not ripping off any Sonic thing because I think we are the longest running Sonic podcast with Sonic in the name at the very least, you know.
That's true. Everyone
I
else
think we are
perished.
I don't even know if that's for a fact.
If this is like a desert and everyone's wandering endlessly, we're still kicking, and we were like, we're not even breaking a sweat yet. Everyone else has perished.
We don't even know why we do it. We mostly talk about non-Sonic
We were just born.
things.
We were just born here. We woke up, and then we just started walking. We haven't seen
man
nothing.
once asked the question, why must I live? We have no answer. We just are. And we are here.
And who said that?
Me. I made that up.
I figured.
But it sounds like it would have been something someone would have said somewhere.
I think, therefore I am. Plato's Cave, my favorite go-to
the Boltzmann
thing.
brain.
Boltzmann brain. Don't look that up, folks. Don't. It might ruin the way the world's looking. Too many people have known about the Boltzmann brain. I don't know.
Yeah, something's gonna happen. But then you go down this line of thinking, and then that's how you might end up as a QAnon guy, right?
Right.
So of course they're getting everything they seemingly want right now. So I don't know. Maybe not necessarily the prison sentences that they want, but everything else seems to be the same. Yeah.
And speaking of QAnon, we need a QAnon level fandom here right now. Like and subscribe.
You out there.
Yeah.
Out there. Remember, this is a PlayStation Move motion wireless controller for the PlayStation 3, 4, and 5.
It is not what you thought it was.
Statistically, you are not watching this, so you are listening instead. So you don't even know what that was. This here, Devin, this is a PlayStation Vita. Not as good as the PlayStation Portable in terms of comfort and
You should
games.
call it the PlayStation Vista.
Like Windows Vista.
I don't know.
My first computer that I owned was a Windows Vista operated machine.
Mac.
And I never
Apple.
understood why people were saying it was bad, but because I was too young.
I just had Apple. That's all I got.
That's all I had. And all you have is us. Like, subscribe, and share. I have to press a button over here. Don't sign off yet.
I'm just
Hey,
getting ready.
yes,
I'm getting ready.
That's right. Down there is a subscribe button. Over there, you know what I'm gonna put over there, Devin? I'm gonna put 200 over there.
What an episode! What an episode! If you want a real,
over there.
that one was that was a big boy one.
Yeah,
that was probably arguably our biggest episode in terms of
I think so. Yeah,
production.
You know what that made me remember? I have to turn this background album art into YouTube thumbnail. I'm making me make a YouTube thumbnail version of this. I have to slide some stuff around to make it fit. That's not going to be fun. Sometimes that stuff doesn't fit properly, and it's like I have to make some decisions.
I just realized we went from like a big production episode to this. This is like when the director gets that first big budget,
and then they get tired.
and they're like, I want to go back to my indie films.
I want to make something for me. Something for me.
This is for us, okay?
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed it, though.
Like, subscribe, and share. We're going to catch you next time. You know what is next? In the next episode of the Sonic Movie Show, Devin? We're drafting movies for our video game movie draft.
I wonder what happens.
What movies did we pick? Devin, David, and myself will sit down and decide. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And you're going to find out. Click the bell. As we always like to say,
ding.
Sonic Advance.
Sonic Advance. Happy 4th of July. I don't know. Is that what they're saying these days?
Yeah.